the Middle Fork into Glacier. Yeah.
Wow.
And it was for like a 4-day, 5-day canoe trip. And it was just phenomenal. It was just amazing. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
All right, folks, here's the pregame show. I want to specially thank, is he here? Eric Berg. He is here.
I love Eric
who, as I will explain when we get started, saved the day today when John Lovett bagged on his obligation to debate me about the nature of time. Pointed out that Wes had taken a strong anti-hammock stand, and this set up today's debate.
Are we allowed to make low-hanging fruit jokes?
I think we're allowed to make all kinds of hammock jokes.
I'm gonna fucking go nuts today because I'm on cold medicine. I feel like shit. I'm not drinking, and this is like and this is the most ridiculous debate topic.
All right, well, we're gonna go live with it. We have now told Twitter that we're live, which means we should probably. The pre-debate poll is up. So you guys should all show your prejudices, and we're going to see if we can talk you out of them. All right, we are live on Twitter, we are live on Facebook, and we are just waiting for the blue go live button, and then we will be live everywhere. Come on, you can do it, blue go live button.
I do love like the manliness of like the bear skin behind Wes, and you're like, and you have
and I have the effete hammock.
Yeah, this effete hammock with little floof balls behind you.
I'm adding authority to my arguments.
But I am concerned because the blue go live button on YouTube has not turned blue yet, and
it knows that this is going to be a controversial episode that we probably don't want to save for posterity.
I am very concerned about this. I need to check the what's going on here. Oh, I see what's going on. I screwed up and entered the wrong key. Let's see if it works now. That was human error. And by human error, I mean my error.
Hi, puppy.
He's there somewhere.
I can kind of see him.
So this is Bowie.
Hi, Bowie.
He's our middle dog, so he needs the most attention.
How many are there?
We have 3.
Wow.
He's also the smallest.
I was really hoping you were going to say 5, but but 3 seems like a more reasonable number. Although still,
if I left it up to my wife, we would have 5.
Hold on, I'll go get Nina, and you can meet Nina.
Aw.
Nina is would not do well in Montana.
I am having trouble getting the stream to work today.
Okay, we're playing with our dogs. Nina, say hello.
Aw, hi Nina.
Nina has one eye and is blind, and then like a couple years ago just suddenly went deaf, and so it's just like she's a very chill dog that enjoys a good enclosed apartment.
She looks very chill. She's a sweet looking dog.
Yeah, she's sweet. So, I do miss other types of dogs though that like you throw a ball for and you play with them and they, do whatever. But it is nice to have during the pandemic like a living, breathing teddy bear that you can like scoop into bed with you, and is very tolerant of snuggles. So, how many?
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Are all your dogs the same breed?
No, they're all rescues.
Oh, nice.
So Bowie here, we got him from a Pomsky breeder. And I guess their prize female husky got out one night, and their neighbors have German shepherds. Put two and two together,
And they
and so they were
fucked
like,
up the breeding.
yeah, and they were like, well, what do we do with these worthless big dogs? We can't sell those.
That's
So
so
we got him,
crazy.
and then we have Teddy, our youngest dog, is an Anatolian Shepherd,
Cool.
which is a Turkish livestock guardian breed.
Yeah, I
We didn't
know.
know we didn't know what
Those
she
are
was when we got
huge.
her. Yeah,
Those
she's
are
huge.
huge.
She's pretty
Yeah.
intimidating. And then Wiley, our oldest dog, is some sort of pit bull, German Shepherd mutt of some kind that I got back in LA.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I cannot get this to work on
You can post it
YouTube.
later.
So we're going to post it later, and the people who have resisted the Crowdcast revolution are just shit out of luck.
It's true.
All right, here we go. And we're not live on YouTube. It is Friday, March 5th, 2021, 5:05 p.m. We are 5 minutes late because I've spent time dawdling trying to get us live on YouTube. To all of our YouTube watchers, oh well, you guys are shit out of luck today. We will post this later for you, and I will leave an apologetic note on YouTube so that you don't sit there. It is the final weekday of Pugilism Week, and I just have a few things to say before I turn it over to Kate, who is hosting today, because I am a combatant. The first is, this is the second time that John Lovett has agreed in principle to debate me about the nature of time, and has then just mysteriously not been able to arrange it.
What a jerk.
Yeah. So we are going to see if he follows up to schedule a time to do it. But I am pretty close to declaring victory by default on this question. Eric Berg, however, steps in from Idaho late in the day and points out that our actual guest today has taken a perfectly outrageous stand against hammocks. Broadcasting from a hammock here in Washington, D.C., I am going to defend the honor of all hammocks. Kate, you are in charge of the show today.
Okay. I want to lay out the ground rules. Okay. One, there are many vectors on which we can approach the problem with hammocks. The first is structural. The second is comfort. The third is practicability. And then I would like to introduce a fourth vector, which is adorableness of animals getting in and out of them. And so, with that being said, I also have lots of banana hammock and scrotum jokes to make today, and reserve the right to do so.
And Philip Roth, The Breast.
I really like that.
Which, the Philip Roth story, The Breast, which ends with, it's a takeoff on Kafka's Metamorphosis, and it ends with the main character suspended in a hammock.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I read Portnoy's complaint, and I was like, that's enough Philip Roth forever. And so I stopped reading Philip Roth. Sounds like I didn't miss anything.
No. It's the breast is very amusing in a Philip Roth kind of way.
I really like that Steve in the comments just said it's Kate's in law professor mode, and then I quickly mentioned scrotum like mere seconds after that.
How many times in your capacity as law professor have you mentioned scrotums?
I mean, I don't even have tenure yet, so I just really want to say how much credit I should be getting for this. I'm really going out on a limb here. Okay, but we should start this debate. But I think because, Ben, you have the home court advantage, I'm going to let Wes go first. And Wes, I apologize for not knowing who you are ahead of time. I looked up your bio, and you have a fascinating bio. You're a contributing editor at Outdoor Magazine, and it sounds like you do a lot of film work. And generally, it kind of sounds like you and I and a lot of my friends should hang out and cook outdoors and go camping and go for floats down rivers at various points at some day in the future.
I mean, Kate, that sounds like a lot of fun. We should definitely do that.
Yeah, I won't talk about law school, I promise, unless you pay me some money, and then I'll talk about law school.
Okay.
But Wes, like, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then tell us what the fuck is wrong with hammocks.
Well, there's a lot wrong with hammocks. So I'm an outdoors person. I've made that my career. I enjoy going camping so much that I figured out a way to get paid for it. That's there's worse jobs.
I have a question. Just to
yes.
I'm gonna ask you this again. How many generations removed from poverty does one have to be to enjoy camping? I just like I love it, but I had someone bring this up the other day, and I was like, yes, it is kind of a weird activity if you think about it in a lot of ways.
I have a really good answer for that question. Back in Los Angeles, I had a small charitable endeavor where I took formerly homeless LGBT teenagers on camping trips and provided outdoors mentorship for them.
That's great.
So
what a cool
they were
idea.
very much not divorced from poverty, and they enjoyed the hell out of it.
It is a different thing. I joke. It's not like being homeless. It's like, it's very, very different.
Yeah, I totally get where you're coming from. You know, seeking out discomfort purposefully is something that comes from a place of privilege. You know, it's unique for us to go, oh, let's leave our fancy house behind and go sleep on the ground in the woods, right? And then it's also, you know, it requires free time, requires expensive gear like fancy hammocks, all that kind of stuff. You know, I talk to people about this often. We take for granted that, you know, my dad taught me to camp as a kid. That means my dad had free time to take his kid camping, and you know, not everybody has that.
Yep, I totally agree. That wasn't like a gotcha. I wasn't trying to. It was really a good-hearted question.
Of course.
Because actually, like, I totally love camping, but I struggle with that all the time. Actually, like, kind of being like, am I like, is this like this ridiculous thing that I get to do? But, anyways, we can talk about that more later. Let's get into why you hate hammocks. I also want to say I am mildly predispositioned against hammocks. I'm one of the people that voted no. So
looking at hammocks from an outdoors perspective, they're an alternative sleep system. So you want to go on a backpacking trip, and you would carry a hammock and all the associated accessories instead of taking a tent and all the associated accessories, right? And so the first problem, simply from an outdoors perspective, is weight and complication. To be comfortable in a hammock, to spend a comfortable night outdoors in a hammock, you have to carry a lot more stuff and a lot more weight than you would in a tent. That seems maybe counterintuitive to start, but so in addition to the hammock, you have the hammock straps, you have a bug net, you have a tarp, you have to carry your sleeping bag. You still have to use a sleeping pad, just like you would sleep on the ground.
Why do you need a tarp? I'm like, because you need a tarp. Like you need a tarp if you're going to have a tent.
Yeah, no, you don't. So you hang tarp above the hammock so you don't get wet. Okay. So you create a roof structure out of the tarp. You still need a sleeping pad, the same one you would use in a tent, to provide insulation under your body. Yes.
Oh, insulation.
And then you also need an underquilt. So you have an underquilt underneath the hammock to provide insulation underneath you from the cold air. So you have there's many more parts of the system in a camping hammock than there is with like an ultralight backpacking tent, a pad, and a bag.
No, that's true. Wait, you don't need like a drop cloth or some type of cover, like a tarp? Like, I use a tarp when I go camping underneath my tent.
A lot of people do. You really don't. All those do is possibly extend the life of your tent. So as long as you're careful about where you sit up and you move sharp sticks and rocks and things like that, you don't need that ground cover. I use one when I'm car camping sometimes for that reason. But when you're backpacking, it's just extra weight, and so spending that little bit of extra time just clearing twigs will save you that need.
I always thought it was because of condensation, and now you know. So that was actually that. I mean, which doesn't actually make sense now that I think about it for more than 5 seconds. But I just like always did it that way. But that's okay. So interesting. So hammocks have a lot more space. You basically have to create a little cocoon for yourself.
Yeah, you create a cocoon, you have a sleeping bag or a quilt and the underquilt, and you still have to take the pad and the hammock and the tarp and all the ropes and straps it takes to string them. And then there's also a question of where you can use them. So if we go on a backpacking trip here in Montana together, it'd be very easy to use a hammock below the tree line. But if we hiked up to like a high alpine lake that didn't have any trees by it, you would run into trouble. And the same would be true if we went on, say, a backpacking trip in Hawaii, and spent some nights in the jungle and spent some nights on beaches, we couldn't say have that fun beach camping experience in Hawaii if we had the hammock, because we wouldn't have a place to set it up.
Yeah.
Question though, isn't this an argument against hammocks as outdoors equipment rather than the more general point that hammocks suck?
It very much is an argument against them as outdoors equipment, because they're entirely superfluous and don't solve problems. But you could say the same thing about hammocks at home. Your hammock is entirely superfluous. You still need a chair in your house. You can't just sit in your hammock. You can't have guests over and expect them to sit in a hammock. That's ridiculous.
Okay. So this is what is the utility of the hammock to you? Wes is approaching it from a camping perspective, but Wes, I also want to know, do you have this problem? There are many types of hammocks. There are the latticed hammocks that bite into your back of your legs as you're lying in them, and that you sink into uncomfortably. And then if someone gets on them, you're just like kind of like smushed into them because you can't have any like private space. Or whatever. But what about like nice soft cloth hammocks, or the parachute hammock, or like reading a book in a hammock between two trees on a shady and like under the shade on a sunny summer day? Do you hate hammocks then?
I don't hate hammocks then. I understand the appeal. I personally don't have space for one in my life. They just don't seem to have a lot of utility to me. But like when I took those formerly homeless teenagers on those camping trips, I always took a couple of hammocks along for them to hang out in, and it helped foster that sense of wonder in the outdoors, giving them a fun alternative place to spend that time.
And they couldn't not talk to each other when they're smushed that close together in a single hammock.
that is also an argument against hammocks. So one of the best ways to cut weight out of your sleep system when you're backpacking is to carry a 2-person sleep system, which everything is unified. That actually reduces the weight because you sort of lose the material in the middle. So that helps you. Like I go backpacking with my wife, we can carry a little less weight as a result, and you can't sort of do that if you have 2 separate hammocks. And then there's also the advantage that we can have sex with each other. And while you can't have sex in a hammock, using one to say a swing or some sort of different device like that, you wouldn't be able to just casually reach over and spoon or sex or do those kind of things. And you would obviously also be doing that outside in the wind and not in private. Whereas if you're having sex on a sleeping pad, you're inside your tent in private.
I'm like imagining 2 people trying to have sex in a hammock. I'm kind of laughing right now.
I mean, that's because it is a scrotum after all.
I know, it's everything coming together.
It gets
I've
recursive
had so
at some
much
point.
medicine today. I'm just like silly. But okay, so hold on. So no, that's actually true. Although I would say like sex is also well, to your point, like, well, that's like a whole other thing. But like when you're camping, I feel like what about the safety aspect when you're camping? Do you think that that a tent and like the space around your body for a tent is like actually like important in any type of way to protect you from predators or anything else?
Oh no, a bear can bite right through a tent. We had a girl actually get bit on the head by a grizzly bear a few miles from here last summer through her tent.
Yeah, that's kind
so
of.
I think the safety questions a wash between tents and hammocks.
Yeah. Okay, Ben, you've waited patiently in your hammock.
All right.
Tell us, make the case.
So first of all, I want to say that 65% of the audience is already persuaded on this point that hammocks are awesome.
I had like 65% of the audience yesterday.
No, so I just want to say
from there.
There's an intuitive logic that most people get that I'm going to make. I'm going to offer. So first of all, the people like to swing from things. And it's a comfortable thing. It involves motion, which is gentle and rocking. If you give a child the option of getting into a swing, they will generally do it. And that is because children are wise and they know that motion is fun. There's lots of poems about the rocking of the waves in boats.
Yeah, there's lots of poems about people getting seasick and throwing up.
Actually, there aren't. Those are things people generally don't write
Those
poems
get
about.
left out of the
Yeah,
poems.
those get a lot of people like motion. So that is thing number one. Hammocks provide a way to sit or lie down that involves motion, and there aren't that many ways to recline in motion. There are a few others, but for example, boats. This is why I love kayaks, because you can sit there and be entirely relaxed and go up and down. I have two hammocks, and I love them both. I'm sitting in one. This is, as viewers of this show know, the Hammocks Studio. And the other is my outdoor hammock that sits on my desk. I do not make a case for hammocks on grounds of utility in outdoorsmanship. And so I feel like the negative case that Wes is making is not responsive to the one that I am making. My argument for hammocks is entirely aesthetic, and actually has relatively little to do with the outdoors. It's that the feeling of hanging, as opposed to sitting on the ground, separated from the ground by something solid, is quite different, and very pleasing. And I think most people sort of share that sense that there's something pleasing about the feeling of being suspended, that is attractive. And it's not for everybody all the time. There are certainly times when I prefer to be in a chair. But I do enjoy the sensation of suspension and the sensation that if you remove your feet from the floor, you will move. Not a lot, not violently, but there will be something like that feeling of being a child and being on a swing at the park. And particularly when combined with a show, like in lieu of fun, and a glass of wine or beer, it's a very pleasant sensation. And it's one that a chair actually can't give you. Now, there are chairs that approximate it. So the glider rocker, which became popular about 25 years ago for breastfeeding, is
it's like weird elliptical, right? Things.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
They don't go tippy.
They just kind of go back and forth
like that. Right?
They approximate a very similar gentle motion, and I have one of those in my office at Brookings for reading, because it provides a motion very similar to a hammock. Finally, I want to say that the point of agreement between Wes and me is that sleeping in a hammock is dumb, because it is almost always involves it sounds like it's going to be a really romantic and appealing thing, but in fact it's not a comfortable way to sleep. And you wake up, Wes's piece opens with waking up uncomfortable and aching, having slept in a hammock. And I think that's actually, I agree with him on that. Every time I have fallen asleep reading in a hammock, I have woken up either sunburned or otherwise regretting it. And so I think it's an important thing to use hammocks for what they are meant for. They are fabulous for reading.
Really? Okay, I'm going to push back on you for this. So I went to Costa Rica. I got this beautiful big hammock for the house in Cape Cod, and I gave it to my parents as a present, and they put it up. And the thing was like, it was a typical hammock. It was like actually kind of comfortable to lie in. But when I went to go and like read, like my arms fell asleep because I was like this and like had to like read, and there was no way to like sit up and read in the hammock.
So
and
let
it's
me,
not
let
your
me,
type of hammock.
so I zoom out this hammock. I just put my arms like this. I hold the book. Here, let me actually zoom
Sorry,
in.
this is actually kind of important because I kind of feel like it's a big, like, I read so much and I like struggle for ways to read
So
at
look,
long periods of time
like
without getting
this.
comfortable.
Book
Okay.
in my hand.
Yes, yes, yes. That's
My
okay.
arms in the thing. Now,
Like
this
you're-
is a specialized hammock. I mean, it is
Does it,
designed.
there's a pillow behind you, but is there also kind of one down on like the lumbar region?
I am sitting on
supporting
a
your back?
pillow. And the other thing that you can't see is that my legs are fully extended. So I can actually lie down flat in this. I happen to be sitting up. But I don't
Maybe
need
this
to
is an
be.
especially good hammock.
Well, so this is a
But I wouldn't take this shit camping in a million years.
No, of course not. This is was purchased on Etsy from Latvia, a group in Latvia that hand makes them. And other than the froofy,
I love them. The pom poms.
the pom poms is not a is the thing I like about it least. And granted, it is less excessively overtly masculine than Wes's bearskin, but I find it an exceedingly comfortable way to spend time.
Okay, so
I have two arguments to make there about
Please.
numbers really fast. The first one, the polling is incorrect. In the American democratic system, my vote counts more than yours since I live in a rural state, Ben. So I want to make sure that's acknowledged.
Yes, okay.
we'll bring in Sarah Longwell to tell us whether that's true or not. But
No,
yeah, so we're like get Nate Silver to weigh in.
I think that's right. Look, the fact that we're even having this debate rather than you simply losing is a reflection of rural state power.
Oh my God.
And
This is
the
why we
second
have
number,
senators, guys. This is why we have senators.
that's why we're stuck with the Senate. The second number issue is actually in agreement with you, and that's 92% of people are not back sleepers. They sleep in some orientation of side or fetal or front or things like that. And the only form of sleep that's possible in a hammock is back sleep. So 92% of people cannot comfortably sleep in a hammock.
I could not agree with that more. I am a stomach sleeper and it's terrible. And I am like ruining the day when I am someday pregnant, in which I'm planning on just getting an IKEA mattress and hollowing out like half of it and then like trying to figure out like some way to make it work. But I am an atrocious stomach sleeper, and I think that I would wake up a million times sleeping in a hammock. I think that I would. So it was really interesting, actually, when I was. So some of the hammocks that I think that you're talking about, and that like are coming into vogue or have been in vogue for a while in the outdoors community. I saw a version of when I was in Cape Cod this year, and a bunch of properties. I think they just had like an excessive amount of people that were living there or staying there, and they had strung up a bunch of sleeper hammocks between two trees, and they were basically with built-in like mosquito nets and like cocoons. Like they were not like traditional hammocks. They literally looked like cocoons between
They're like hanging
two trees.
tents.
Is that what they're calling them?
No, but they're hammocks. They just have to add all the stuff to them so you have the same benefits.
It was
of a
all
tent.
one bundle, and it was all
Yeah.
parachute cloth, and it was summer. And it was like, they didn't have to worry about bears or anything else. Like it was like, Western Mass. It was like in Massachusetts. But there's I'm curious like what you think of those, because those all like, but I have this exact same phenomenon, which is like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like maybe we need one of those. And then I was like, oh no, that probably would be one of those things that like I'd be excited to have the autonomy of like having an extra bed somewhere, but it would be the most uncomfortable bed ever and kind of awful. Have you used those?
Did you have a chance to try one while you were there?
No.
So
No, these
when
were
they make
strangers.
them,
I just like walked by their house and they were like, they were
avail
like,
themselves of.
no, they were just like between. It was in like their front yard. Like they just like had all of these things out, and there's like 8 cars in the driveway. So I just assumed people were sleeping in them.
So one of the problems that hammocks have is that they look really cool and they look appealing, and then they get designed around that feeling of coolness, but it's not practicality, right? And so you need a bug net and you need a roof when you camp in a hammock. But by making it all into one unit, it becomes really, really hard to get in and out. So you end up sort of fighting the entire thing. You're sort of stuck halfway in and halfway out. The door doesn't align with where your feet are. And it becomes like a realistic impossibility and a hassle. Whereas a tent, you have a door and you open it and you go through the door and then you zip it behind you. And that same action in a hammock becomes a wrestling contest with the entire device.
Yeah, totally. I had this. A funny story about camping. Kind of funny, which was that basically that I had my partner. This was when I was going down the Flathead, and it was our first night camping, and we had been warned really greatly about grizzly bears. It was late. It was mid-August that we were doing this. And the water was also very low. So we had a whole concern about that. We did lots of portaging, but there was, anyways, grizzly bears were out and about, and, people had told us to bring a gun. We didn't bring a gun. We brought a bunch of bug spray, whatever, or bear spray. And we pitched our tent for the first time in the middle of this, like the sky just changes like that. We pull the canoe over, we pitch a tent, and it just downpours for 4 hours. And then it comes around sunset, it gets clear and it's a nice day. We eventually go to bed at 8, like you do when you're camping. And in any event, it's, I don't know about you, but I, even to this day, the first night of camping, I get really I'm very, very I don't sleep well. I'm not just because I'm sleeping on the ground, because I'm just hyper aware of sounds, and there was actual predators. And so I hear this, I just hear this, it sounds like someone throwing a boulder into a dam, and we're in the middle of fucking nowhere, miles and miles from civilization. We're it just sounds like someone throwing a boulder into the water. We're holy shit, what was that? What is out there? And both John and I just kind of sit upright. He has way more camping and kayaking and canoeing experience than me. And we're both just upright in the dark tent, and it's just you realize it's you and this tiny thin film of material between you and the entire outdoor world, as you said with this grizzly bear story. And John and I are just both of what the hell is going on? We hear it again. We hear kind of twigs snapping. We're just are there people around us? This doesn't sound like a bear. What is going on? All of a sudden there's this gunshot. And I'm holy fuck, what is happening? And all of a sudden John goes, it's fucking beavers. It's beavers. We had there was a rainstorm, and we had completely panicked, and we had put our entire tent on a beaver dam. Literally put our tent on a beaver dam, and these were beavers in the middle of the night jumping out 40-pound boulders to go fucking get food. And I couldn't and we just had this complete, anyways, don't build your tent on a beaver dam is the moral of this story. It has nothing to do with hammocks. Sorry, everybody.
Yes, but wait, if you had been in a hammock, the beavers you wouldn't have been on a beaver dam.
Yeah.
Now, you might have had other problems, but I do want to point out that this story is a good argument for
no,
hammocks.
It's not a good argument. See, it seems like it on the surface, Ben, but had you set up a hammock on the beaver dam, the beavers could have removed the supports for your hammock while you slept.
That's true.
Excellent.
Oh God. Anyways, I think that it's actually really fascinating to me that you as an outdoorsman don't love hammocks, because I did have the misconception that they were if you could sleep in them, they were and you were comfortable, they would be the lighter way to travel. But you convinced me.
They're much heavier. If you go with some of the lightest hammock systems out there, you're lucky to get out of it for under 7 pounds of weight total once you have everything you need with the pad and the under quilt and everything, right? And my base weight when I go backpacking with my ultralight tents, sleeping bag, and sleeping pad, that stuff barely weighs over 3 pounds altogether. So I'd be more than doubling that weight in order to carry a hammock, and that is the antithesis of what we want to achieve.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it was. I mean, I'm not going to get into it, but like it was a float. So it was a canoe trip. So it wasn't like weight was a huge issue. It was a backpacking trip, so it was just slightly different. But yeah.
Absolutely, I get it. And there's so many comfortable things you can take when you have a canoe. You could have been on a luxury air and foam mattress, 2-person with giant quilts, and you had all the comfort of home instead of being in separate hammocks and sort of struggling.
Yep.
Yep.
Wait, are we gonna go to Eric Berg's question? Are you there?
You're the host, dude.
Oh fuck, I forgot.
You told me to bring in questioners.
Well, normally, it's weird because you have all of the controls, but I'm the host. Hi, Eric. Hi. Sorry for awkwardly making you stare at us for a while. But it's so nice to see you. How are you?
You got to unmute yourself. Wait, we're gonna have to bring you out and bring you back in.
Oh, did he is one of that thing? This happens a fair amount.
I'm not sure. Oh, now he's...
What a time to be alive.
Yeah, exactly. Now he's gone altogether, which I don't understand. Eric,
that's okay. I just brought up...
Refresh your browser, Eric, and then we will bring you back.
In the meantime, I do have a clip to show, and this should really... I hope that both of you... We'll see if you can agree on this clip, but... I want to see how you feel about this particular, let me see. Okay. Yes.
Huh.
I just want to say that to Ben's aesthetic point, this seems like a most adorable way to enjoy a hammock, and maybe... see, look at this little guy.
See, I would just point out that there's one of these pandas supports my argument, but the other one, who has rooted itself to the fixed post, arguably supports Wes's argument. That look, I mean, it's not. I do think the one with the hammock is having more fun.
I was just gonna say the one with the hammock seems like both less actualizing in his goals, but just okay with it in a way that's... But maybe that's about the mentality of that particular panda and less about the hammock.
Oh, now I probably
should point out that those pandas are using that hammock incorrectly. You don't lay in the hammock horizontally like that. You lay across at like an angle, and so you can achieve a straighter back. Trying to flatten the hammock like that is the wrong way to do it.
To have become food, so there's this whole eating thing that's happening. I mean, wow.
That's actually something that sometimes happens with hammocks.
A beaver got that tree.
All right, Eric Berg, the floor is yours.
This isn't a question on hammocks, so I apologize, but it's a question of personal privilege as I read you back in your Jalopnik days.
But I just want to point out that Eric set up this debate and then is now going to change the subject, which I just think is, that's bad form, man. You set up a debate about hammocks and then you come in with a question about motorcycles.
Well, you brought me in for the question, so
I don't know, because I understand that this is not a wholly serious enterprise here.
Okay. So, if you were going to if you were going to suggest a motorcycle for exploring Montana and Idaho, I live here in Idaho, but in Boise, but I get around both Idaho and Montana quite a bit, and I'm thinking about replacing a 73 CL350. What would you suggest?
I would get a Honda Africa Twin. They're the big 1100cc adventure bike that Honda makes. They're pretty sweet. You definitely like more of a 50-50 bike where it's really good on pavement and okay off-road. So you sort of have to ask yourself what kind of hustle you want to do off-road when you may want to find yourself, on a lighter bike.
Sweet.
All right.
I like.
Thanks again.
I don't have my motorcycle license. John does, but I don't have it. I've been considering it for a while. Do you think it's worth getting? I really don't
Yeah,
actually like going that fast, so I would probably be happy with a 125cc engine, which doesn't require licensing. So, like, I don't know.
yeah. I mean, like living in a city is a great place to own a motorcycle or a little scooter, like you say. You're getting on a 125cc scooter or motorcycle, you're getting 125 miles per gallon plus. So your fuel bill just entirely disappears. You can park them anywhere.
Yeah.
We
I've
actually
been
just
thinking about
passed.
it a lot. It's just cold here, so that's the
I,
whole hard thing.
I get it. You have to replace it with a snowmobile in the winter.
That's a funny joke. Oh God. Anyway.
Oh God, he's
Hi,
serious.
Tony Kava.
Hi, Kate. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You can. Awesome. Hey, I've got a really super serious question, but I also have a very short activity. I acquired a new piece of art today, and people in the chat wanted to see it. So I was wondering if I could show it to you.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Okay. This is from my friend David Tom. You guys might remember this painting from one of my appearances. Ah, there it is.
Beautiful.
Anyway, same artist.
Beautiful.
And he's a birder, and he's really gotten into birds. So it's still laying down. I just got it today.
Wow.
So
Oh,
I don't
man.
know if you can see it, but he does these
That's
collages, and
Cool.
that's a parrot,
It's
and that
beautiful.
is a kingfisher.
Yeah.
And it's all kind of very kind of Japanese and kind of collaged and laid up, and it's got
I love it,
patterns.
Tony.
And
That's
he's like my
beautiful.
favorite artist.
Super
So
cool.
great.
Yeah, it was amazing. The shipping was crazy. It's crazy. Came in this $300 box. It was crazy.
It is crazy.
Anyway, so my question, that is crazy. So my question is, which piece of furniture takes more weed to properly enjoy? A macrame hammock, a waterbed, or let's see, I had a third one in here.
Oh my
someplace.
God. Oh my God.
Or a
water
beanbag
bed.
chair. So those are the
beanbag
three.
chairs.
Which requires more weed to properly enjoy and to set up?
I don't like smoke really or like enjoy weed in that way, such that I have experienced all of these things on weed, and I don't think Ben does either. But I will say that like I like a good beanbag chair. It really depends. Those old vinyl ones used to eventually stick to the back of your legs. I have like very
Yes.
strong memories of that. And then I would say, what were the other options?
But the water, you're too
There's a
young
beanbag
Oh, the
chair,
water-
to
no,
like have
I'm
strong
macrame hammock.
associations
No,
with a
because-
waterbed.
Well, I mean, I am to
And
have
a water
actually
bed.
owned one.
Yeah, let's
But my
not go there.
friends'
Too much
parents had
information.
water beds, and I was always like, and I remember
Wait,
it was
wait. Your grandparents had
no, my
water
friend,
beds?
no, my friends' parents had water beds, and they would have this
Okay.
huge
All
water
right.
bed, and it was like, actually, like we would go, like they would be like, you have to see this water bed, and we would like go and play, and like kind of to Ben's aesthetic point, it was like we would just play on the bed for like a million, like it was just like fun and
Yes.
bonkers and crazy, and like I don't know, like what happened to those? I don't even know.
Well, they eventually all leaked because that's what happens to waterbeds.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
I am a
think they
child
became
of
like
the
a liability.
1970s. My first 10 years were the 70s, and the early 80s were still waterbed times, and so I have very strong childhood associations with waterbeds being these very exciting things, which of course they're exciting for small children for reasons very different from the reasons they were exciting to adults at the time. But they are actually quite uncomfortable to sleep in. And unlike hammocks,
Yes.
I want to point out, a bed that you can't comfortably sleep in really has no alternative, or there's no other argument you can make for it. So I'm not a fan of the waterbed, except as a sort of thing that you can like lie around on as a small child, and it's kind of fun.
It was. It was like it's kind of like being.
Yeah.
It was like kind of like I don't know. Like it's like being on one of like those jelly things.
Yeah.
Like that you're just like it would be like whoa. I don't know. I never thought about it in any serious way.
But I will defend a good old fashioned beanbag chair, because you can just jump on those and sink into it, and
they're comfortable
and never get up.
Yeah, I'm kind of for it, so I will defend the beanbag chair and the macrame hammock. How about you, Wes?
Macrame hammock is terrible.
I like a waterbed. I like the motion. I can still lay horizontally like I can't in a hammock. They're very cool in a hotter environment, so that's nice. I'm a waterbed fan.
Are they cool? I have no idea.
So I think Wes is saying that it would take zero amount of weed for him to use a waterbed.
I would also make the point that all these devices are better enjoyed with weed.
I was just going to say that. I'm like, all of these sound better, except the macrame hammock, like in which I feel like I would probably be like really hyper aware of how scratchy it felt all over my body, like type of thing. But generally, like
I will just say that for their intended adult use, waterbeds are a lot like making love in a hot tub, where it sounds awesome and it doesn't actually work.
Yes, probably exactly right.
All right, Tony Cava, we have now a question from a hammock. Alice Lee.
Alice Lee.
That is well done.
Up. Very well done.
Are you comfortable?
It's my discomfort is not associated with the hammock particularly. My hands are cold. That's all.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
okay. So first of all,
hammocks are not designed to keep you warm.
Moment. Well, I do have. The hammock actually from the bottom is keeping me quite warm because I do have a closed cell foam pad in the hammock, and it solves most of my issues as a back sleeper. To be fair,
I know
you do. So first of all, some ref working, because Kate is like the one person who will get this hammock pro. The best thing to read in a hammock is a tablet because it's good in sunlight and there are no pages and it like stays flat by.
Yes.
So and then the non-domesticated hammock question for Wes is, I think you're not considering how well with tents, because I have gone to sites that are filling up with a hammock, had no problem place to so the of it kind of allows you to have more options because most people are looking for something else.
I would argue the opposite. Tents give you a lot of flexibility in places to set up. I don't typically camp in campgrounds. I usually go off in the wilderness and camp by myself. So I look at it more from I'm on a mountaintop. Hey, I'm somewhere. Is there a small piece of flat ground? And you can almost always find a small piece of flat ground, even on the steepest slopes, even in a jungle, even on a beach, wherever. Whereas having two trees the perfect distance apart is much more rare. Should also make the point that in places like organized campgrounds and front country places that are public lands, strapping a hammock to trees is often illegal because the volume of use would cause damage.
I was going to say that. I was going to say, like, if you like either screw into or strap on trees, like you could very seriously quickly like circle the bark and make and kill the tree, and that's like not well, obviously not for like, but I mean, like, can I ask a question before? Hi. I love your Barco Lounger.
I'm in my comfy chair.
Yeah, I love it. It's so great. But I have a question really quickly for Wes, which is just kind of like, Wes, like when you work for Outdoor Magazine and they do this type of stuff and you're trying to like basically angle for something that is going to hit people, how do you hit these mixed audiences of people who are wannabe outdoors people who are like beyond outdoors people and probably, to be fair, don't read the magazine necessarily because they're so beyond the outdoors? So like, what, like, it seems like a very hard demo to hit.
It is, and the basic answer is that I pick fights on the internet, and then people want to read them. Either to call me an idiot or to agree with me.
On the internet?
Pugilism week, man.
I know.
Yeah, one of the tricks to writing for that audience and those mixed audiences is to write with a level of expertise that doesn't turn people off and provides insight even for the experts, while also making stuff accessible enough that a normal person can read it and also understand why they want that knowledge. Communicating immediately why the knowledge is important or why the topic is important is really the trick there.
Yeah.
Hillary Livingston,
Hello.
the floor is yours.
Very good. Interesting conversation about a hammock. I didn't have strong feelings about a hammock, but it's given me a lot to think about. So, Ben, I have a question about your hammock. Is your hammock freestanding, or did you have to drill holes in your wall or ceiling to attach it?
And Ben, you should feel free to open your screen.
Yeah, I'm curious to see your whole setup.
If you're comfortable with it, but
No,
if
I'm fine to, but I can't today.
Okay.
Because my other camera, which is on the other side of the room, which could show the whole setup, is not on. And I would have to get up. And I'm so comfortable in my hammock that I'm not intending
Jesus
to get
Christ.
up. But I will do it
very
tomorrow.
comfortable.
I will have the camera on and show the whole setup. It is hung from a stud in the ceiling. It took approximately 7 minutes to do that. You tap on the ceiling, you find the stud. I missed with the first couple of drills.
I was actually going to say, I was like, there's never been a fucking time that I found the stud on the first go.
Yeah, so at some point I will plaster in the holes I made. But it was super easy, and I just you have to hang it from something. And there are freestanding sort of hammock chair stands that you can get. This one hangs from the ceiling.
Ben, you need a stud finder.
I have a stud finder, actually,
no,
but this is an old house, and it actually has varieties of things coming off studs that can confuse stud finders.
I was just going to say
that makes sense.
Wait, I'm not hold on. Can we just have a conversation about stud finders for a second? And I'm not this isn't about Grindr or anything. I just would really like to know, no, seriously, I have I've bought 3 stud finders in my life against my father's advice, which was stud finders are bullshit. Tap on the wall. I've never been able to discern the tapping on the wall in order to find a stud. So I bought stud finders, and they fucked me over a bajillion times. I've never found a good one. I don't understand why people think that these are so reliable.
Okay.
What is this thing?
So this is a question that actually has a simple answer. In standard construction, studs are 18 inches apart.
No, I know.
Hey.
This is what I do now. 18 inches from the edge of the wall, and so you measure 18 inches from the corner.
Wait, so
I know.
Let me finish the point.
Okay, sorry.
The vertical studs will be 18 inches apart in almost all standard construction. So if you can find the center of one, it is very easy to find the others with a combination of a knuckle and a tape measure But here's the problem, which is that there is construction that is not standardized, or that people do weird things with because people
are weird.
Yeah,
or older houses where there's a history of things in the walls that have been changed.
Exactly.
Anything with historic preservation, you're kind of fucked on this. Yeah.
And there is also, this is a really important thing about stud finders. So lathing, plaster over lathing does not work with a stud finder. Stud finders work with sheetrock. And with something very simple and uniform that's covering up. So if you're in simple construction that's pretty regular, you can do it with your hand. You don't need a stud finder. But if things are complicated, having something that you can map it out with and do sort of figure out, like, the ceiling of this room is complicated. And I should have known that because I built it. But it's pretty complicated, and it has a lot of things coming off in places that you wouldn't expect. And so, like, actually mapping it with a stud finder was a good thing to do. All of which is about hanging hammocks. It's not about the hammocks themselves. Connor,
I don't know. I like kind of love this. Like, maybe we should have a word association week in which we like give a word and then bring so many people on to talk about it, and then like go nuts. Like, it would be fun. Sorry, Connor.
Yes, thanks. So when I was in college, and also I live in San Francisco, and so we go to a lot of parks here. People just, string a hammock between two trees, and they'll just sit there for hours. I don't really like that. I think it's kind of not. I don't know that it necessarily hurts the tree. Sometimes I think it does because it will rip off like the outside of the palm trees, like trunks or whatever. But I don't know. Whenever I see.
Are you talking about slack lines too?
What's that?
Slack lines.
Yeah, kind of. So that was my question.
Yeah, that's a real problem. All of like sort of the blood vessel equivalent that exists in trees exists in the bark. So all the fluids that are going up and down are going up and down through the bark. So if you just take a knife and cut a ring around a tree, completely slice into the bark, you'll kill it. And
it's a very easy way to kill a tree if you want to fell a tree to do like foresting or like do forest management.
Exactly. And so if you really care what the types of straps you use with a hammock, the age of the trees you hang them on, you can't just use paracord or something thin that'll just cut through. You certainly can't use wire. You want a nice, big, thick strap to sort of spread that pressure as much as possible across the bark.
I will just add that, like, I think there's an interesting question to what Connor talked about, which is like he's talking about kind of the use of this is like not to be a complete nerd about like law, but like this is a property law question, which is basically like it's about the use of commons. And like the commons that you and I are typically talking about, Wes, in the middle of like kind of like Montana or whatever, like if you kill a fucking tree, there's like a million trees, like who cares, like a little bit. Like,
if everybody kills a tree, there's not a lot of trees anymore.
But like exactly, you kill enough trees and there's no trees anymore, and it's like an accretion thing. But like in particular, like if you're in a commons, like which is like literally a green or an area in San Francisco that has trees in it that are beautiful, you hang these hammocks from it for hours, and you think that it's like a zero type of cost thing, and you're actually maybe damaging the tree a little, and that there is a huge cost to the commons that you're taking out of that. And like the entire idea of the commons is that like we all commonly benefit from it, and that there are no rules to regulating how exactly we use it, right? And so like, and that's part of the liberty fun of a commons. But like this is like, I would say that's a bad use of the commons. But like it's
essentially a consumptive or damaging use.
It is. It's totally. You're going to use up the commons. Listen, the commons idea originated in this idea in Europe, like, or England, where you had like, okay, like you were going to graze all of your sheep on the same platform as like all like 5 or 6 other like shepherds. Well, if you decided that this was going to be the amount of land that you were going to graze on, and you were all going to share it, there's nothing to stop you from increasing your flock to the maximum amount that would crowd out all the other flocks or whatever else, and then like completely deplete the resource and like kill it. And like that type of use is terrible and like not good for the economy and not good for the environment and everything else. And so anyways, to that point, maybe I should write like a slack lines against the commons article. No one would read that. That's okay, except like maybe.
Well, a good analogy of modern times. A good analogy of modern times would be grazing on public lands. So cattle farmers and sheep farmers can graze on BLM and Forest Service lands here in the West, and they pay for that. They pay a price per head. It's very, very cheap. Taxpayers actually subsidize it, but that's a whole different conversation for another time. But perhaps there should be a hammock use fee where we charge each hammock user like 25 cents per night per hammock to set up a hammock on public land, given the damage they possibly cause.
Okay, so
I think we should just forbid uses of hammocks in fashions that cause damage.
You say that right now, but I'm going to show you a video, and I'm going to make you think differently about this again. I promise this. This is a pretty great. I mean, like, where is the bad? Where is the bad? Come on, Wes.
The bad there is that those bear cubs are being habituated to human environments and finding them less scary through the simple joy of a hammock. So by putting that hammock up there and allowing the bear cubs to play on it, you're potentially creating a dangerous situation for those bears, which might need to be destroyed.
This is an issue of bad bear parenting, and we should. The solution to this problem is to shame the mother bear who is there. And make her acknowledge the error of her ways, and maybe use some cancel culture to say, mother bears, keep your bear cubs away from human hammocks. It's not an argument.
Am I wrong? Are those grizzlies? They do not like brown bears to me.
Those look like brown bears to me.
Do they? Oh, they're brown bears, not black bears. Sorry.
Did you know
brown bears.
that brown bears and grizzlies are the same species?
Yeah, brown bears. Are they?
Yeah, there's actually
brown bears and grizzlies are the same?
No, there's the difference between them is purely environmental.
Yeah, I was about to say the names change by geographic area. So here in Montana, we call them grizzlies, and they're smaller, they have different diets, they behave differently, they're more aggressive. Than say coastal brown bears in Alaska, which have more abundant food sources and grow to larger sizes.
I was going to say that. Sorry, I will end their screen sharing, but I was going to say that basically, so my familiarity started in Alaska when I was reporting in Alaska, not in Alaska, but talking to people in Alaska, and people told me about brown bears, and then, I mean, I think that's to a certain extent, though, Wes, I would push back. I'm I kind of think that this is one of those things. I don't think it's a bad thing that the bears are finding that hammock. What seems more damaging to me, although I'm sure this is kind of what you meant, is the fact that brown bears are so close to humans. So close to humans and not afraid, and this has been this has been kind of
right.
the and I think that that's the big difference. And so you have, I don't know, you have this kind of they're really deadly and super scary and really to be respected, and this makes it seem like they were jocular fun times on the hammock, but it's not. And if you, I have one of the largest heart attacks I ever had, it wasn't an actual heart attack, I'm being facetious, but I was on a run in Flathead, around Flathead Lake, and I saw a bunch of bear cubs as I was on the trail, and I just started singing as loud as I possibly could as I was approaching them, and I had bear spray and everything, and I was just so scared that there was somewhere that I was going to cross between them and their mom, and they were going to and there was going to be some type of and I didn't know what else to do, and I had no one with me, and I was very far from home, and so I was had a long way to go in the run. And so it was just oh man, it's just a very scary thing. I don't know. I think that that's something people forget.
Absolutely.
All right, so we have the post-debate poll is up, and I want to say Wes has made up significant ground here. So if you haven't voted in the post-debate poll, put your vote in now and reduce my humiliation here. So we should wrap.
Wes, thank you so much for coming on. I hope you'll come on again. We should totally do
anytime.
A wilderness. Yeah, this is so great.
Pick fights with people on the internet and challenge them to debate you on In Lieu of Fun.
For introducing us to Wes. This was fantastic. We don't have fun anymore. Oh, wait, hold on. Wait, I fucked it up. Hold on. Let me see if I can do this right. Hold on. We'll be back 22 hours and 57 minutes from now. And until then, Ben, we don't have fun anymore. So in lieu of fun,
we have bears playing in hammocks. And they, unlike my opponent...
I thought you were going to say hammocks. Sorry.
Unlike my opponent, they understand the true joy of hammocks. Wes, it's a pleasure to meet you. We will be back tomorrow. It's just us, and we will come up with something to argue about because it is Pugilism Week. And tomorrow is the final day of Pugilism Week, and because it's just us Saturday, we will duke it out, Kate versus Ben.
We should figure out what we have to disagree about.
Yeah.
There's like a few things. Yeah. Not many, but we can do it.
Well, we can also choose something randomly.
Yeah, it's true.
That neither of us feels strongly about.
Jujubes.
We will see you tomorrow. Thanks, Wes. Good to meet you.
Bye, Wes.
Thanks, guys.
It was